Hi guys, Lee here from straightwoo.com with the full moon in Libra reading. I'm so sorry I'm doing a Facebook Live and possibly invading your timeline and sending you an annoying notification, but my technological stuff is broke to shit. So I am so sorry. If you don't have time to watch this now, some of you may be on holiday, some of you might not be, just save it by going to the top right hand corner. And you can just click to save the link and come back to it later when you have some time. Eventually I'll try and also get this feed and upload it to YouTube. So basically full moon in Libra. And this is the deal. It's not a cute full moon. I don't like to be, drama mama astrologically, but it's not a cute full moon. Let's say this, as a starting point, the full moon in Libra or in any air sign is perhaps not the sign or the temperament best acclimated to take hold of a full moon and do the best with it. Air signs are known for their objectivity, their rationality. The full moon has a lot of tension. It's the sun and moon and absolute maximum polarity. And the moon is really best in water or earth signs. Its home sign is Cancer. Its exaltation sign is Taurus. So in Libra, sometimes we have the problem where we're thinking, not feeling, or we get in this constant weighing up business that never finds resolution. And although I don't necessarily believe in the signs as a psychological continuity, meaning that Aries is the baby of the zodiac and Pisces is this like super otherworldly, amazing, evolved human, there is some sense in how the signs evolve through the zodiac. So one of these things is Moon in Virgo takes an unintegrated mass of things and separates them, wheat into chaff, useful, not useful. These are the things that can be used here. This is not useful here. It goes there. It kind of shoves things about. It's both the home sign and the exaltation sign of Mercury, because whereas Gemini can go around and bounce about and kind of sample the canapé intellectually, Virgo is the best sign at taking that information and making it useful, to kind of do this two-pronged approach with information, with the intellect, with communication. So Virgo is, all earth signs anyway, have a very organic wisdom in the way that they work. So Virgo has that wisdom of the earth and of nature, and that everything happens as it should, and that there is a place for every energy if we take time to separate things out properly. So by the time we get to Virgo, things are in two separate piles, and we're weighing them up. That's what we know Libra as. It's the scales. We're weighing up. We're doing a balancing act here. And although many people talk about Libra as the sign of marriage or the natural ruler of the 7th house, interesting to note that in Libra there are two solid separated items being weighed against each other. They have enough space and objectivity that we can compare them. They're not intermeshed. They're not interlocked. They're not married as such. We get more into merging when we go into Scorpio because it's a very intense sign, very deep, very penetrative. We penetrate the outer shells or outer cores of other people. We really lock in a different way. But Libra, we have these two different things happening. Very typical at Libra moons, new moons or full moons, that it's about choices, it's about selection. I always talk about Libra, and one thing I really enjoy about the sign, yes, people talk about indecision, but anytime we make a decision for something and naturally against something, because we can't have everything all the time. What's the famous Rolling Stones song? You can't always get what you want. It's exactly that. Anytime we make a decision for something, there's naturally something that gets left behind. That's one of the beautiful wisdoms of Libra, that we can take our time and be patient, and also talk to other people, get other opinions, let other players into the decision process, so we make the best one possible, knowing that to make a decision is to make a decision against something else. But it's sticky, this full moon. The moon is being squared by both Saturn and Mars, as is the sun. And this is something we would call in traditional astrology maltreatment. This is the idea that this moon is this sacred special vessel, and it's kind of got like laser gun rays coming at it from Mars and Saturn. So my feeling here is, and anytime I see Mars square to the moon, I think about body stuff. I think about inflammatory responses, whether that's of the body or something that comes out verbally. And Saturn to the moon is also either one, a denial of one's needs, or a standing back from one's emotional materials and not engaging. And this is part of a bigger story and part of a bigger cycle anyway. I mean, Mars and Saturn are the two malefics, what we would call the two baddies, the two bad dudes in the zodiac. And once again, both of these points are kind of hurting or maltreating both the sun and the moon. So what we get when Mars and Saturn are together in this kind of alignment is this. Mars and Saturn together are what, and I'm stealing this from Eric Francis at Planet Waves, really great astrologer, he calls it a pipe bomb, because Mars is this action, this movement. It's kind of frozen, it's dynamic, and Saturn is a limit. So it's like you drop a firecracker into a pipe, kablooey. So, whereas if you left a firecracker open on a table, it would just fizzle out. At some time it would burn out, and the pipe by itself is quite fine. But if you put the two things together in a really poor combination, bad things would result. There would be some kind of interaction. So, things I'm thinking about here, I'm thinking about anger, and I'm thinking about touchy moments. I'm thinking about things coming to a head. I hope that for as many of you as possible, that can come to a useful head. That there are good conversations that come out of this, that if this full moon kind of acts as a release valve of sorts, or allows you to vent certain kinds of material that otherwise have not had a space in your probably relationships. I'd say this is something that's probably very interactive or has to do with entanglement of sorts. It doesn't have to be romantic, but it's certainly something about the relationship of oneself to another thing. And most likely, again, another person, not a thing. So, full moon in Libra, square to Mars and Saturn. That is looking pretty tough. Here's something that's not a thing, though. Blue moons are not a thing. I know tons of people talk about blue moons. It's one of the, I know whoever sent the laughing emoji just now. Yes, my friend. I'll link to that video that I've made about that. It's on my YouTube channel if you want to check that out. The moons are only every 2 weeks anyway. There's no real magic to the moon cycle in that sense, other than the fact that it is mystical and magical to see the moon in the sky, and it's waxing and waning cycles. But the new and full moons are happening every 2 weeks without fail. They will never change. And hi, Alyssa. And for that reason, blue moons are just a disagreement between our human calendar that we've created and the moon's natural cycles. So that's something. Number 2, and I'm going to try to get this on screen so you guys see what I'm saying. Another thing that you might see written about is that there's a mystical rectangle alive in the full moon in Libra chart. Do you see that blue rectangle? That is what some people call a mystical rectangle. Good to know. And what these are is these lines in between the chart are sometimes called aspect patterns. So a really common one is T-square. There's something called trines, which are 3 trine aspects in relationship to each other, grand trine. Mystic rectangle was created by a mystic known as Helena Blavatsky, and she had one in her chart, so she decided that this rectangle should be mystic. So there's that. So the blue moon part, forget about it, it's not a big deal. The mystic rectangle part, forget about it, it's not a big deal. Now the good thing that's really helpful at this full moon, and the way I would say to try to push your psyche and try to head towards, is that the ruler of the full moon is Venus, because Venus is the ruler of the sign Libra. Venus is in Taurus. It's one of its happiest places. It's another home sign. And it's a very, very, very beautiful aspect to an asteroid called Vesta. And when Venus and Vesta are in really good relationship to one another, the kinds of things I think about are focused dedication and service around Venusian topics. So that could be beauty, it could be love, it could be art, romance, fineries, luxury, anything like that. the Venus Vesta trine, and what you can do with that is to focus yourself and to ground yourself and to steady yourself as you go into this full moon. Again, it's quite pinchy in a lot of ways, and I'm quite particularly of the belief that this full moon is definitely about relationship material. Not necessarily just because it's in Libra, but the ruler is in Venus. Venus is trining Vesta. That whole configuration is saying that there's a concentration or a focus or a dedication or single-mindedness, a tunnel vision about romance or love or Venusian topics that needs to happen. In addition to that, there's two things, one of which has been popping up in my work a lot lately, so some people may already resonate with this. There is a light T-square, again, that's one of the aspect patterns I just mentioned, between Venus and Taurus, Ceres in Leo, and Black Moon Lilith in Aquarius. And if I had to describe what I feel that is about, I feel like that's a splintering of the psyche, the part of us that thinks that I can only be Venusian, which is quite sexual and romantic and attractive as a woman. I can only be a mother, or I can be free. And that these three things are very disparate, and that they can't be intermeshed, or that there is, if we choose one role, we have to necessarily leave another one, or we can only have one role at a time. And quite often, I mean, I know I've got some fellas in my audience, hello friends, hello male lovers of astrology, but for my femme friends, quite often we know that we have to choose one role. We only get one at a time, and often we move from one role to another, and then we're only allowed to have one at one time. So yes, Sherry, it's hard to mesh those roles, girlfriend. We move from lover or girlfriend to wife, wife to mother, mother to what? Question mark. I always think Hecate, dark goddess. We start having our own creative energy back again. But that's something in the chart that I see and that's been coming up in my work a lot recently with clients. So if you're already on that level, that I think this is part of the conversation. This split that we have as women and that as men we may see in the women in our lives between mother nurturer, the person who takes care of me, Venus, the person who excites me, the person with whom I have sexual chemistry and energy, and Lilith. And Lilith is wild and free, not to be contained, not to be put upon, wants to please no one. That's not an aspect of self that many people get to bring into public life that often. The last thing is that there is a conjunction. So these two planets are sitting really close to one another, which is Neptune and Asteroid Juno. And when Neptune and Asteroid Juno get together, the story is about expectation and reality in relationships. So Juno is the goddess of marriage. Juno, aka Hera. And she was the much mistreated, much maligned wife of Zeus or Jupiter, depending on if we're talking Greek or Roman pantheon. And she had very high ideals for marriage. She wanted to be in a great productive marriage. She wanted to be very loyal, but she was really quite often put upon, hurt, humiliated, or again, quite repressed in her role as wife in some kind of way. Her husband was always off kind of gallivanting, doing his own thing, impregnating anything that moved, even if it was an animal. And she, on the other hand, was quite contained in this very tight little vessel that was her role as wife consort. So almost like a desexualized wife in a lot of ways. She had a lot of great sides too. She was very, I can see parts of the Parkland group here because this is also about standing up for minorities, standing up for different people, standing up for those who don't have a voice. That's part of Juno's story too, because she was a great protectress of children, of childbirth, of people that needed her help. People would pray to her during those times of passage. So I see there's like some things about that that I think have been going on since the solar eclipse, or the new moon solar eclipse in Aquarius, that really relate to what the Parkland kids are up to, which I personally find really, I have a tremendous amount of pride that they're young Americans and that they're doing such wonderful things. But Juno and Neptune together, Neptune being the ideal, but also the illusory, kind of foggy, does have to do with like what we expect in partnership. And this could be business, it could be romance, it's across many different levels, and what we get. And I'm kind of reminded in this moment of something my mom used to say to me, which was that you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And I feel like a part of this, yeah, a bunch of little hearts there, thank you. I feel like that's a part of this full moon. Tensions may run high. Inflammatory responses may arise. There might be angry words. There might be stuff passed back and forth that's not very pleasant. Does it need to come out? Will it actually help? B, have you not been connecting with the things that you really need and you deserve and you want to have? Because that, again, is part of this story between Saturn, Moon. Saturn, Moon for sure is, I want things, but I don't think I deserve it. I don't think I really need it. Somebody's told me I don't need it. Somebody's probably patterned me from a long time ago to say that the things I need are silly or not needed or not important. It's not true. Mars square to Moon is much more about the world of finding, again, effective ways to release anger or release that kind of energy. So just think about that when it comes to inflammatory responses. If there's words that you feel like you can't get out, they stay kind of bundled up, just watch for what your body does in response to that. Because sometimes the unspoken stuff kind of goes into a whirlpool in the body. So that's it, my good friends. I just wanted to do a full moon and Libra reading here. Again, because I'm having extreme technical difficulties at this full moon. There is a Mercury retrograde on in Aries, which for me is my 10th house of career. Mercury retrograde will create mishaps, miscommunications, and all that kind of stuff. So the only other caveat I could put in place here would be to say that, just be careful. If you feel like you need to sit on some of these words, if you need to think or meditate about, the different roles you're playing, what your ideals and expectations are, what you're actually getting, that needs some more time to mature. That's fine. It doesn't have to come out immediately. That's it, my loves. I will see you guys another time, soon on the blog, I'm sure, and wishing you guys the best.